Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of 20 Minutes from the Future. I'm Alberto, and today we have a very special guest from the other side of the world. She's a founder and creative director at KA Design and president at the Bramco Group. She's an entrepreneur, and she's been selected by the World Economic Forum as a young global leader. And last but not least, she is into the Guinness World Record, but we will find out later why is it. So, welcome to Kanika Dewan.
Yes.
Hi.
It's a little choppy, but I hear you.
Okay. Welcome to 20 Minutes from the Future. So, I will start
Thank you.
asking the first questions, which is about what you deal with. I mean, your mission is life improvement, and how do you want to achieve it?
So basically what I was saying was, you said, what is life, what is my goal for life improvement and how am I going to achieve it? And I've said it in order to sort of tell you how I feel that one can achieve this. And it's always a learning journey. I don't think it's ever completed, because the key word is improvement. So if you're improving your life, you don't reach a full stop. It's constant. I mean, till you're alive, it's a constant journey to improve your life. So the answer of how would I achieve it is the process of how the journey would be completed. And for that, I would like to go back to history, which is what I was saying earlier. I said, when I left my job at investment banking, the reason I left my job in the corporate world was because I wanted to be an entrepreneur which aimed at the mission of life improvement in all areas. I wasn't attached to any specific field in which I wanted to be. I was attached to improving lives. So every concept that came up was improving lives of others, making sure that everything is interconnected, and using the philosophy that we do not improve lives if we work in a siloed approach. We only improve lives if we're holistic, interconnected, collaborative, because the world is a cogwheel of collaborative parts. And that is the only way that you move forward. So because if you take, it's almost like the human body, and the human body reflects what life is. And therefore I say, if you can improve your human body, you improve life as well, because you can't really take the aspect of a specialist who says, oh, you're feeling faint just now because your heart's not working as well. Well, there could be other things working at the same time. And that is exactly what I think life is about. And that's why I left the corporate world, because it was all about departments, divisions, siloed approach. You were in the automobile team, or you were in project finance. I was in the project finance team, but in project finance, we dealt only with power, infrastructure. You could do M&As, but you couldn't necessarily deal with automobile project financing. So everything's very segregated, and I feel like we limit ourselves in these frameworks. So the answer is, what does that mean? And how do we achieve life improvement? Well, I think the focus is, if you equate the journey of life improvement to the journey of happiness, then you're in the process of improving your life. And so it's very apt, the title that you've given to this topic in the show, which is Design for Happiness. And that's really where the source comes from. And I see every project that I work on, every business segment that we're involved in a lot, from aluminium to steel to design and build of airports, to zero waste art. In fact, what's behind me at the moment is a piece of my zero waste art, which just came at a moment when there was a crisis, and I started sketching, and it made me happy. So, I think achieving life improvement is about having a goal for happiness, but remaining happy throughout, which is sustainable happiness. If you start reaching out to your goal, then you never get it, because you always think it's far away and you're reaching out. You and I talked about space, and it's about, if you're always thinking you're going to look at space, you're always going to be on land. You're not at space yet. You're not at the planet. So it's about saying that we are happy. We're always moving to remain happy. And that's, I think, the key to life improvement and the concepts that we've been working on.
So, as you told us before, design is a way to make us happy. And as you told me and us later, the design behind your back is one of yours. I want to ask you, what is the project you are most fond of and why?
So this is very interesting question. I actually am most fond of the project that I did for designer and owner of Citroen cars very early on in my career. When I started my business from New York, in fact, from the apartment next door, where I live, I then grew the business. The first job was a $2,000 job, and I ended up at a trade show. And I met the designer and owner of Citroen cars, who was about 75 at the time, and had moved to America, and he owned a 50-acre estate home in New Jersey. And he came and came to our little stall and looked at our work and said, I like your work because it's very unique. Can you design for me? And I said, well, I'm not a designer by profession. I studied finance at the Wharton School of Business. And I have noticed that when I have a crisis, I become happy when I sketch and when I start designing. But this business concept started to improve lives because I felt that if you improve aesthetics in a sustainable manner, where you care about the environment, where you care about climate change, or using natural materials, and we do it in a vertically integrated concept, which is our concept from the mines to the end user, and every aspect of it is cutting out the middleman so that you can control ethics. So that's also important from a design point of view. So you're not dealing with corruption. You also control the design value and the quality and the fact that you're using natural materials. So I said, if you're able to do that, you're able to achieve happiness. So I explained to him, I said, this is my concept. This is my business, but I am not a designer by profession. He said, doesn't matter. I like your stuff. Did you envision all this? And I said, yeah, I sketched some of this and I went to my factory and I made it. And he said, well, I'd like you to come to design my home, which is about 30,000 square feet. And that was a small project compared to the airports that we now do, which are, you know, one of the world's largest airports, Delhi International, Mumbai International. But, you know, I'm not necessarily most proud of, you know, I would say, you see the word proud. Yes, I could say I'm proud of the airports. I'm proud of Leela Hotel, Leela Palace, because we worked on something which was a challenge from a climate change point of view. You know, they had a big challenge. They wanted the energy conservation to reach its optimum solution, and we made a paneling solution. For example, at the Nella Hotel in Delhi, which is a very exclusive 7-star hotel range. So I could say I'm proud of that. But again, we're talking about design for happiness. So why I talked about my 25,000 square foot home project, which I had very early on in my career, which was really the turning point of my career, is because that was a project that gave me happiness. That was a project that motivated me to start designing things like you see in my background, to create a gallery in my factory and of zero waste art. So, you know, to work on these type of things, I got the confidence, regardless of not being a designer by profession or being an artist by profession. So that's why I would say that is what made me most proud, if I could, happiness.
Okay, perfect. I would like to ask you another question, which is one I hinted at the beginning of our conversation, and it deals about the Guinness World Record. Can you tell us about it? How you are in it and why?
Well, so basically, as we grew our business, that I started separately, I didn't want to be part of the family business. So for many years, I told my father, you know, the family business is Bramco, involved in raw materials and mining, but road building, causeways, etc. So it didn't necessarily have to do with art or design of this sort. And what I did was I ended up integrating. When I did the airports, I said, you know, I'd like to, I know eventually I promised my father that I would also have two hats. One would be my own business, one would be my role in the family business. He said, what have I built this business for? So I promised I would go back. So there was a point when I started integrating my role, because I wanted to integrate the teams, because I did not want to join as group president through nepotism. I needed the team in the family business to really understand that I've come from the bottom, that I understand that I've built a business. I haven't just been daddy's girl who's joined. And so at that point, we started integrating beauty with engineering and technology. So we started doing a lot of projects related to the King of Oman. So we'd done the Grand Mosque for the King of Oman, for which we'd got an award in the Marble Institute of America. That was a joint project between Car Design, Natural Stone Depot, which was the manufacturing part of Car Design, my company, and Bramco. And when that happened, because we'd done so well in it, the late Sultan Qaboos, who's unfortunately passed away, his royal court and him started inviting us for many other projects, including his royal yacht, which was one of the largest. We were really able to do a lot of R&D, lightweight stone technology for the yacht and artwork. Now, because we had become known to him, one day his members of the royal court turned up at my art gallery, which is the Zero Waste Gallery, which this piece is a part of, in Bahrain. And they turned up and said, hi, we know you and you've been involved in a lot of our projects, and we have a secret project for you. We said, what? And they said, look, it's the king's 40th accession date, and we'd like to gift him something, but it has to be a surprise. We want to gift him something special. He has everything, so what do we give him? And he's been a great king, and he's been a great sultan, and we'd like this to be a surprise. So I said, okay, I would like a piece of art, his portrait. We want it to be special. We want it to be sustainable, it to be in stone, because it's natural and he loves stone. You've been employed for so many of his projects. He loves it. So we want you to create his portrait, but in whatever way you want, in whatever form you want, but it must enter the Guinness Book of World Records, because that is something he doesn't have. And we wanted to hang and say that this is the largest portrait of the King of Oman in the world. And I said, okay, so how do we do it? And so we searched and we said, well, there has been no portrait which is as large as what we made. It made in mosaic form. And I said, look, I'm very attached to climate change. I'm very attached to zero waste. So I want to make this from zero waste. And they wanted it to be an act of kindness. So it wasn't about how much it cost. In fact, it was almost done at cost. If you even hear the amount of cost or the payment that was received for it, it's almost free of cost. So that was the point. It was about providing happiness. And it's interesting that you asked me this question here, because it was about putting a smile on his face, providing him with happiness, but without money being the forefront. They could have said, oh, let's give him a palace, another palace or something. Let's do that and let's spend the royal court's money. No, it wasn't about that. I think it was I think the whole thing, maybe they said, oh, for the labor cost and all, may not have been more than $15,000 maybe even. And it was one of the largest portraits in the world. And it was all from zero waste, all of it. Zero waste. So it was it was made from sometimes slabs where we didn't waste one piece, and sometimes from leftovers of other pieces. Of course, that's a secret that he didn't know though.
That's fantastic. So you made an amazing achievement and entered the Guinness World Record, and at the same time helped the knowledge about climate change and environment issues. So it's fantastic.
Thank you.
You're also working for the development of mobile housing for the low income individuals, right? So right. What about this project?
So when we were doing the Delhi airport and Mumbai airport, we developed mobile housing functions where you're air conditioned, lightweight flooring, fully sanitized, so that it was made of stone. So it'd be fully sanitized antibacterial because of the fact that it is stone. So rather than your usual, just putting plywood on the floor or something for labor housing, we wouldn't. We wanted to go further. We wanted our labor force in the airports to be happy. So basically, what we did was that we started working on this lightweight mobile system. Why? Because in the airports, we had to move location. They gave us 6 acres of land for our housing our labor force. And while companies like IBM and ABB had their labor force in sort of shanty, like slum tents, just made of tar, we said we don't do that, because our labor force is in-house, they're on our payrolls. If you want proper quality and you want longevity and you want them to be there forever, they have to have proper housing, they need to be productive. So this project started from there, and now it's developing into completely sustainable climate change project where the entire system will be, it's an R&D phase. So our first new mobile home has not been developed. It's still in the form of our labor housing that we already developed.
Okay.
But we're developing the new mobile home, phase 2, into a second step, which goes further, which can be for low income, but it can also be for villages of sustainable happiness. It can also be for areas that are high income, that want to live in a climate, in an environment that promotes climate change. For example, our toilet will also generate electricity. These are the systems we're working on. And so this will take some time, and we're adding more members to the team. So we're also looking for more resources to enter the team as we develop phase 2, or as the tech world would say, our beta testing. And we're going into something that you've never seen before. So we've moved from our lightweight sustainable housing for low income and labor forces and construction sites into a sustainable housing which can be for low, mid, high income ranges. We're really putting this as part of villages of sustainable happiness, which can exist anywhere from Denmark to India. So it'll be quite interesting, because what we're saying is the entire home, why I talk about the toilet, is from the roof to the toilet is working on sustainability, on providing energy. So you don't have to get external forms of energy.
That's true. Totally true.
And at the moment, something interesting, Alberto, maybe you find it interesting since you've asked about this, is recently we've been called in India. We've had a few calls from rural areas due to COVID, asking for us to regenerate the labor force housing that we had for airports into mobile clinics. And we also worked on a mobile clinic concept. But the government of India is providing mobile clinics by turning railway, the trains into mobile clinics. But the problem with that is the railway, the train cabins has to stay on the tracks. So the accessibility to every remote village is limited. However, with our mobile housing systems and our mobile clinic, and if we merge the two, which is what we're working on, the accessibility to rural areas is improved. So you can have larger hospital areas set up in that way, but also the mobile clinics in the form of vans converted going towards people's houses as well, if they need urgent care, to bring them to the hospitals.
So a more capillary impact on the population, and not only of those who have already some kind of access because they have the railway nearby. And I guess where is the railway, there is the urbanized city, but the rural area maybe are not covered with the system. So it's a double impact, in my opinion, and that's fantastic as well.
Exactly. And just another note is Christina, obviously who's a good friend, she said, Christina Posey, obviously who's the CEO of Impactscool, we were having a discussion on how we can apply this to schools. And she started saying, can you think of how this can be applied to schools? And it's very interesting because you have to think of the psychological impact on students, on how you can apply this for schools post-COVID or during COVID. I think we're not over with COVID. So during COVID, and how to deal with it as you come out of lockdown. But what I found was It's a very slow process in India, but it seems to be far faster in Italy. So you never know. We might be working very closely with the government task force in Italy sooner than the rural clinics come out in India. So I'm quite pleased to be doing this with you in Italy and with Impactscool.
Okay, then we will be surely in touch about it. So I have another question, which is about your country, India, the country where you were born in, and it's a country in great expansion and growth in the latest years. However, you've denounced corruption in your home country, and you're trying to fight it. What is the real situation in India, and how do you want to fight corruption?
Well, I think I won't delve into the whole, how did I fight corruption at the Delhi airport? We had zero corruption, Delhi airport, Mumbai airport. In fact, Mumbai airport, it's taken 7 years. 7 years. I still don't have the final payment. Our 15% of our project payment for design and build of the finishes of Mumbai airport has not arrived because of our zero corruption. At Delhi airport, it took 3 years for it to get to us because of zero corruption. We wouldn't pay 30,000 rupees to one of the financial heads of who were running the airport. So 30,000 rupees is nothing. I think it's $700. Okay. I refused to pay that. In Mumbai, the very exciting part of Mumbai was, and the satisfying part, which provided me happiness, was when we fought corruption at the border. You see, fighting corruption with a PPP. So the way we fight it is, I first take public-private partnership projects. So how I started is, I didn't say, okay, I'm going to take the big bull by his horns immediately. I said, I will do only airports which are public-private partnerships. So what happens here is 60% is owned by the private entity. And when 60% is owned by the private entity, you are able to, at least the layers are not as vast as the government itself. 40% is owned by the government, public. So you fight the corruption first through the private entity. And how we do it is through the life improvement model that I started when I said I want to do my own business, which was about life improvement, designed to build under a vertically integrated solution, where you're cutting out the middleman, providing sustainability through an ethical value chain. So that is the mission that we had. And the ethical value chain means that we have an owner-to-owner relationship. So that's why we're the designer, we're the architect. So we will say, we're the manufacturer, we're the mine owner. So from manufacturing to designing, it's not just design consulting, you're doing everything from implementation to installation for finishes. We just don't do the structure. And of course, we delve more in products that we have minds for. So this is the way we fought it, because when you have an owner-to-owner relationship, you're able to go whistleblow directly to the owner. And whether the owner is corrupt, believes in corruption or not, generally most founders and owners in India do not favor corruption. They may have to do it as part of the protocol that they're used to, but no one at that level, I think, wants to do it. And yes. So you're able to chip away and start using the philosophy, the value judgment to explain, look, corruption is not right. And generally, when you have an owner-to-owner model, owners are embarrassed. For example, there was a situation with the government, in fact, where the old government of the Congress party said there was someone who, I guess I won't name, came one of the constituencies, one of the secretaries of one of the constituencies of the members of parliament, came and said, can you pay a little extra to some subcontractor? We only keep about 10 people on subcontracting team. Otherwise, we have no subcontractors, because that's how you achieve the value and quality of your product and your design and build, and the ethics. Because if you have too many subcontractors, you can't achieve that, because then you have more layers of corruption. So they said, they want some more payments from you. I said, but that's extortion. We have a, I'll check on it, but usually we're very particular on our accounts. So, I went back and he called me. I don't know how he got my phone number, but he said, you're managing a huge project. You're quite well known. So I found your number. And so you're very much on the radar of politicians. And so therefore I'm asking you as the owner of your company, can you just give this subcontractor a little more money? I said, why? He said, because he is important to our constituency. He provides us votes. And I said, yes, but even if he's a subcontract, that's a form of corruption. You know, there's government corruption,
Yes.
there's corruption at the private level where, like I said, the finance head is asking us, there's corruption at the border control level, which I said I was very proud to fight. I'll tell you that story a little bit, but also at the, internal level where your own subcontractors or vendors can extort. I said that is also a form of corruption. He wants extortion. His accounts are coming to a certain value. So they looked at the value and they said, you know what, you're right. We went through it too. You're right. But can you just still pay him a little bit more money? And they put so much political pressure that the Congress party had got involved and put pressure on the owners. The owners, some of the owners of the Delhi airport. And I was called in and I was told, Kanika, this is India. And you're not very Indian, even though you're from India, you didn't grow up in India, and you've come back to India to make inroads because you're very patriotic and you want to do, infrastructure work and show the world that India is capable of being a modern window to the world. Because I've always thought that India has been on the Silk Route. It's called a developing country, but I think it's always been developed. So they said, but you have to work as Rome does. Work as the Romans do. In India, corruption is there. Give him a little more money. What's the problem? And I said, no. And anyway, I managed to put my foot down and they all went away. But what I'm trying to say is the owners also finally said, okay, you're right. Even though they were used to do as the Romans do. And they started developing philosophies, even the owners, we started seeing that they wouldn't accept Diwali gifts. They started putting a lot of processes in place. So, sometimes this dialogue, as you chip away and leaders talk together, you're able to fight that corruption. The situation in India is improved. Now, it has improved in the new government. But you see, because of a lot of transparency through e-governance, but you see, at the end of the day, there's a man behind it. So even with the e-governance, that, for example, tax people, they find a way, to trouble you in some way.
There is still a lot of road ahead, but I guess India is making huge steps in this direction.
They are,
so
because people are
fantastic.
scared. The current Prime Minister Modi, Prime Minister Modi, look, we can't evaluate and gauge, even though, I've had conversations with the Pachi group of World Economic Forum, been invited to their main meetings, but we can't gauge. There's still, people like the World Economic Forum and Pachi are still working on how do you evaluate and calibrate how much corruption there is and how much has been eliminated. You can't gauge, but what I can see is even on the levels of police corruption and other, if they try to ask for money, I simply say, well, there's a law, Prime Minister Modi will, there's a law against corruption. And I'm happy to report it directly to the Prime Minister's team or the Prime Minister. If you say that, you see fear. So whether it's been managed to be achieved on every level, I can't say. But I can't tell you the quantity as it reduced by 30%. But what I can tell you is that Prime Minister Modi's speeches have been very influential in implementing the fear, for sure.
That's fantastic.
Which helps.
Okay, I have just one last question before we move to the questions from the public. Sadly, we don't have much time, so I'll ask you to just answer in a sentence to this last question. What is the recipe for designing the best possible future?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
What is the recipe, for designing the best possible future?
So I think, again, it goes back to the caption of happiness. The recipe of designing something has to deal with, is it internally making you happy? If it is internally making you happy as an individual, we're all a connected consciousness. As a connected consciousness, it means that we're doing the right thing for the greater good of greater mankind. And it means that the next person sitting next to us will also probably be happy with that design. And if you break it down, you need to look again at life improvement. You need to look at corruption, at health, education. You need to look at an unsiloed approach of the Sustainable Development Goals. if you want to really look at a framework. But what I would say is the frameworks work in order to organize your thoughts. But first, you must flow. And I think if you work towards meditation, for me, I find I get the best recipe when I meditate. You meditate and then you flow. Then you flow and then you organize.
Okay.
And if you're in crisis, then you have pain, drives to happiness, drives to the best recipe for design.
Okay, I have just one last question. This is from the public. And they ask you, what is your next big project?
My next big project is Villages of Sustainable Happiness, where it is a utopian concept where you not only have physical design in the form of homes and things like that you've spoken about, education, but also the intangible. Happiness driven by mindfulness, by appreciation and kindness, where we do not use money as a form of exchange. We use kindness and time as a form of exchange. That is my next big project, but it's going to take a while to put all the parts together. We're almost there. We've got a lot of interesting partners on board. And a step towards it is our Center of Sustainable Happiness, where the building is ready. We're just about to launch, but COVID happened. So we're now going to go digital while the world improves and people can start walking into the building.
Fantastic. So, Kanika, best wishes. I hope that your next project will be out soon. And I'll thank you for your time and for this fantastic interview in your insight on happiness, design, and sustainability, and future, of course.
Thank you so much, Alberto.
You're welcome. Today was the last episode for this season of 20 Minutes from the Future. So I thank you everyone for joining in, sorry, and for following us. We will resume the show the 8th of September with a very special guest, which is Francesco Inguscio, a startupper and CEO at Nuvolab. So thank you again and see you next time. Bye.